Welcome back. Today is World Environment Day, the United Nations principal vehicle for encouraging worldwide awareness and action for the protection of our environment. It was first held in 1974, and since then, it's been a flagship campaign for raising awareness on emerging environmental issues, from marine pollution, human overpopulation and global warming to sustainable consumption and wildlife crime. This year's theme is connecting people with nature. Well, let's talk more about that. Environment and climate change expert Dr. John Osonwa joins us now from Kogi State. Doctor, glad to have you on the program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
How can we interpret this year's theme?
Well, what we want to do is to connect people with nature. As you know, the bulk of our food resources come out of nature. Bulk of our medicines, or over 80% of our medicines, come from the forest, from trees and forest resources. Our food, as we all know, comes from nature. The water we drink, water is life, comes from nature. So you cannot ignore nature in your planning, whether it's personal planning or developmental planning. And that's what we're saying. We need to connect with nature.
Now that the whole world is caught up with the dangers of climate change and protecting our environment, what other contributions could be significant enough to make this change?
Well, in Nigeria, we have some monumental challenges when it comes to the environment. You look at desertification in the north, which is a symptom of climate change. You look at the Lake Chad region. Lake Chad has shrunk by 90% in the last 30 years. Used to be about 25,000 square kilometers. Now it's about 2,000. Over 30 million people are threatened. They don't have the land they used to have in that area, that is arable land that they can cultivate. They don't have the water resources. They don't have the fish resources. So it's leading to mass migration from that region. Climate change is also a security threat to Nigeria. We talk about, I just saw a report now about Fulani herdsmen and farmers clashing. Why do we have increased occurrence of clashes? It is simply because there's not enough resources in the northern region. At any given time, you have about 20 million cows that must be fed. And because of desertification, you don't have enough grass. You don't have enough grazing land to feed that much cattle. So they have to migrate southward. And when they do that, we have insecurity. So desertification, climate change, environmental degradation are highly critical to our survival in terms of how we look at those issues.
Right, Dr. Osonwa, thank you again for your time on Network Africa. UN peacekeepers have secured Bria, a town in the Central African Republic east of the capital Bangui, where more than 41,000 people have been displaced due to fighting. The clashes are between mainly Muslim fighters from the former Seleka rebel coalition that overthrew President Francois Bozize in 2013 and anti-Balaka Christian militias who opposed them.
The calm is slowly returning to Bria, a town in the east of the Central African Republic, but the situation remains tense following weeks of fighting that displaced thousands as violence in the country escalates. According to the United Nations, 22 people died and an estimated 36 injured in the fighting that erupted 2 weeks ago in Bria between anti-Balaka and armed faction of the ex-Seleka. Central African Republic has seen violence since 2013 when mainly Muslim Seleka fighters seized power and ousted then-President Francois Bozize, prompting reprisal killings from Christian anti-Balaka militias. The Seleka and other groups have since splintered, prompting further violence even as the country held a democratic election won by President Faustin Archange Touadéra, who was sworn in March 2016. Around 10,000 people have been newly displaced as a result of the recent fighting, bringing the total number of internally displaced in Bria to 20,000, with 15,000 seeking shelter at the base of the UN peacekeeping force known as MINUSCA. Over the past 2 weeks alone, more than 100,000 people have been newly displaced in the resurgent violence across the Central African Republic. The UN says new emergencies are escalating the already immense needs for sustained humanitarian assistance.
The country does not have half of its population to contribute to its reconstruction. 1 in 5 Central African is a refugee or internally displaced. 2 out of 3 do not have access to drinking water and basic sanitation. 2 out of 3 do not have access to basic health services. And those who were wounded did not have the treatment, and some of them died because of that. Nearly 1 in 2 is food insecure in a country where you just throw a seed and then it will grow up on its own because the soil is really, really fertile. Tens of thousands of children bear the consequences of malnutrition and untreated diseases. And thousands of women and girls are exposed to gender-based violence.
Around 440,000 people were displaced throughout the country by the end of April, and that number could reach 500,000 by this month. The UN Humanitarian Office says that would represent the most displaced since the height of the crisis in 2013.
On a lighter note, board games are becoming quite popular here in Nigeria. Now imagine them being played by a herdsman. Watch this.
At home, the Kadiris are spending the evening playing a board game called Chiyawa, which means grass in the local Hausa language. Players take on the role of farmers, and their objective is to graze their herds in positions on the board where there is enough grass.
This helps to unite the family together, and instead of everybody in the family going out or sleeping or using the internet and chatting, it helps to create unity in the family.
Kenechukwu Obuagu built his first game in 2013 for a friend and realized there were no board games in the market that were based on relatable Nigerian narratives. Nigerians are already board game lovers and enjoy draft, Monopoly, Ludo, Scrabble and chess, but none of these games originated from the country. So far, 24-year-old Obuagu has produced 7 different board games.
I started realizing that it's much more than just keeping people busy, that you can actually tell stories with board games. Like you can literally tell a story or an experience using board games. So now, if I want to say what actually inspires me, what is keeping me going, or what makes me, want to put a design on a paper or go to the computer to work out something, because there is this underlying story that I want to share, that I want someone to relate, and much more, I want someone to be part of.
The board games retail at about $3 each, and Obuagu has sold over 2,500 sets. The pieces and boards are cut and packed by hand by 3 regular staff and 12 contract workers.
Right now, our priority is that people have access to these games. So we want to have more people playing our games than having less people paying more for our games. So we want everyone, and it informs the way we produce it. So our production have to be low cost. So instead of doing one fancy thick box for the game, we could just wrap it neatly in a nylon and stick it so people can be able to afford it and play it.
Obuagu is working with cafes to create board game centers where young people can play for free. He also organized an African board games convention in Abuja. The annual event is an interactive gathering of board game lovers and designers.
I love this game more than others because it makes me to remember many things I've forgotten. Back then, even now, I'm still going through the game because I still want to learn more things.
The games are also educative. Luku Luku is designed to help players improve knowledge in science, English and geography, and also think fast. Obuagu says he has 13 prototypes ready to publish, having already gone through the playtest stage.
That's Network Africa. Thank you for watching. I'm Joke Rogers.